The Premier League returns this weekend with reigning champions Liverpool, the bookies' favourites to retain their title. The Reds have spent nearly £300 million on new players, while Chelsea, Arsenal and Manchester City have also invested heavily in fresh talent. But with even greater riches on offer in Saudi Arabia, is the Premier League still as attractive for big stars? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, it's regarded as the best league in the world, and this weekend it returns to our screens. But with colossal salaries on offer in Saudi Arabia, how worried should Premier League bosses be? Well, let's meet our guests. In Barcelona, we have Andy Mitten. He's a football journalist and the editor of the Manchester United fanzine, United We Stand. In Madrid, we have the football writer Panos Kostopoulos. And I'm delighted to say, here with me in the studio, we have Tim Vickery, the football journalist and broadcaster. Andy, to you first. The Premier League likes to think of itself as the greatest league in the world. Is it still?
Probably. It's never been shy of putting forward that case, but I've been fortunate to travel around the world watching football, and you'll find a better atmosphere at most Argentinian games. I've been to Turkey in the last year, and the noise was far better at a Galatasaray-Fenerbahce game than anything I saw in the Premier League last season. So I think every league has its virtues, but the Premier League is full for pretty much every club, for pretty much every game. And that is quite rare. You don't get that in Spain. And when I speak to Spanish or Italian or South American footballers, that's one thing that they pick out. You know, you can go to Celta Vigo in La Liga and it's a lovely stadium, but it is half full. It's very attractive, the Premier League, to players. The wages are the highest, and there are huge clubs there. And it's also perceived to be clean in terms of the results. You don't always get that around the world. And the competition is fierce. You probably have 5 or 6 clubs who could potentially win the league. And even those who won't win the league, some of them have got incredible histories of winning European Cups. So there's a lot of shocks as well. So you can see why it's attractive. And the football, it's 90 minutes. I remember speaking to Xavi Hernandez saying, we kill teams off after an hour and we let ourselves just relax a little bit for the last half an hour. That would not be acceptable in the Premier League. The fans simply demand that your team gives it their all for the 90 plus however many minutes are added on.
Thanks, Andy. Panos, to you, you work in Spanish football. What's their view of the Premier League? I mean, we've seen big transfers between the two countries. Obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold has left the Premier League this summer. Liverpool, an England player, heading to Real Madrid in Spain. What's the Spanish view? How do they look upon the English league?
Well, its league, I think, can make their own strong case. If I'm not wrong, before the Chelsea Real Betis Conference League final, Spanish teams had won, if I'm not wrong, 27 straight finals, including the Spain games, international games. So they used to look up to the Premier League, but now they feel strong and they feel that La Liga is actually the best league in the world, having the most successful, arguably, club in the world and one of the most entertaining teams in the world too.
Thanks, Panos. Tim, to you, you've worked 31 years in South American football.
How, happy man, very old. Yeah.
Tell me, how do they view the English Premier League?
I think last month Chelsea made a very compelling case for the strength of the Premier League, didn't they? The side not in contention for winning the league title last year, destroying the European champions. And it's that strength in depth that is a selling point for the Premier League. The TV broadcasters love it because, as Andy said, the stadiums are full. So you are surrounded with an atmosphere that reminds you this is important, this matters. However, we've heard there about the strength of La Liga, and so far, the pulling power of Real Madrid and Barcelona, it's very hard for a young, talented Brazilian to say no to one of those clubs. You're a Liverpool fan. Felipe Coutinho effectively wrecked his career going to Barcelona in a move that couldn't work. But how do you say no to Barcelona? And it's arguable that the Premier League has never had an absolute top-rank Brazilian superstar. But we live in interesting times, and it looks like one has embarked and will play his first season. This is Estevão, who has joined Chelsea. Chelsea tasted some of his venom when he scored that wonderful goal against them in the Club World Cup. So if a side like Chelsea is now attracting the brightest Brazilian talent since Neymar, that in itself, I think, is a declaration of the strength of the Premier League.
So, Estevão, we should really keep an eye on this season?
Wow. The goal that he scored against Chelsea, I don't know if you remember it, it was from an impossible angle on his wrong foot. He's left-footed. So, okay, I'll deal with this attacker by giving him space on his wrong foot. And he scores a goal like that. He moves like the wind. Beautifully elusive, wonderfully balanced. Physically, he may well need time to adapt, but the talent is absolutely breathtaking. And you lucky people on this side of the Atlantic, I've been enjoying him now for just over a year. You can enjoy him for many, many years.
Look forward to it, Tim. Andy, let's look at the reigning champions, Liverpool. They've had a very difficult summer with the tragic loss of Diogo Jota in a car crash in Spain alongside his brother Andre Silva. How do you think that will impact them as a club and as a squad?
I think it's rocked Liverpool, but it has happened in the close season, and I think the fans and the players are having time to process it. It's utterly tragic. You've seen the outpouring, not just from Liverpool fans and players, but from clubs right across football. I was in Munich for the Nations League final, and I looked back at my pictures a few days ago, and there in the middle of one of them, just looking at the camera, was Diogo Jota. So utterly tragic. But I don't think that Liverpool will become significantly weaker because of his loss. Clearly, he's a very good player, but they've strengthened, they've spent a lot of money, and they're a top team. And I think those players will be saying to each other, almost, let's do it for Diogo. Let's try and use it as a force for something positive. And Liverpool won the league quite comfortably, and I think they will be the team to beat again this season.
That's a good point, Panos, isn't it? Liverpool have spent a lot of money by their standards, a huge summer of spending. Florian Wirtz, one of the most sought-after attackers in European football, joining. Frimpong as well, Kerkez, players all over the pitch. Arne Slot won the league last year with Klopp's team. He's very much trying to put his stamp on this Liverpool squad now.
Yeah, that's correct. The thing is that after one summer that Liverpool didn't spend a single euro, then they go next summer and they spend big. They strengthened a team that won the Premier League, let's say, quite comfortably, at least in the last stretch of it. And they have now the depth to compete in both competitions, in the Champions League and the Premier League. As Andy said, if you want to win the league, you have to beat the winners. So Liverpool will be the team to beat, exactly.
Thanks, Panos. Tim, to you, who do you think will be their main rivals?
I wonder, and obviously you have a vested interest in this
I'm
as a Liverpool fan.
Here.
In hindsight, will we see last season as the final season of the house that Klopp built? And does the new era really start now? But your question there, who are the main challengers? Well, this is one of the big plus points of the Premier League. There are so many, aren't there? There are so many. Chelsea are the Club World Champions. Arsenal have been knocking on the door for so many years. Will this finally be their year? Manchester City may have done well from the Club World Cup because they were there for a brief time. They've assimilated their new signings. They've played their new signings in some competitive matches. And then they were eliminated relatively early, giving them some time on the beach to relax. So there are so many challenges, which means that we go into the season without, I don't think, there is an overwhelming favourite. Because even Liverpool, the champions, with these new players, are now an unknown quantity. And this is one of the things that drives the global audience to come back to the Premier League, because you're never 100% certain who is going to win.
And tell me, just Chelsea winning that tournament didn't get as much publicity as you'd expect, but the Club World Cup, that's a huge confidence boost, isn't it? Young guys like Cole Palmer, You know, they've got talent everywhere, Chelsea. Do you think that will give them the belief now to think we can kick on this season?
It was interesting because during that tournament, I was caught between the two extremes. The country where it seemed to matter least and the country where it seemed to matter most. Because in Brazil, it was absolutely massive. It was the biggest thing in the club game. Now, Chelsea have drunk from that well, if you like. So they haven't been contaminated by English indifference. I think you saw during the competition, they got into it. This is something. But they could feel the passion of the South American fans from the stands. And they've drunk in some of that and they've come out stronger. It's a very, very young team. But I would have thought that in the course just of those 3 weeks, they have matured significantly. And they have now set a bar for themselves. They defeated, in comfort, the reigning European champions. So if they're not thinking we can win the Premier League, there's something wrong.
Andy, it almost feels strange to be talking about the Premier League and who might challenge and not mentioning your beloved Manchester United. What can we expect from you this new season?
Much better than last season when United finished 15th. That was the worst season since the team were relegated in 1973-74. It was a disaster of a season. The team didn't win a single pattern of consecutive league games. There could have been some success at the end with a Europa League win in Bilbao against Tottenham, which would have got United back into the Champions League. But United fell short there as well. So there needs to be a significant improvement. I think there will be. But I wouldn't expect Manchester United to be getting a 21st title this year. United and Liverpool, of course, have both been champions of England 20 times each. I think Liverpool are way out in front at the moment. But the signings have encouraged fans, Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo. There may be more. The departures, I think, will also encourage fans. The fans are really behind Ruben Amorim, the coach. It baffles some outsiders because the team have been so poor. But he needs to start winning. That's what he needs more than anything. If we're getting to October and November and United are as bad as they were last season, then the pressure on the manager and the support for him will evaporate.
Panos, how much pressure do you think there is then on the Manchester United coach Amorim to get this right very, very quickly?
Well, lots of actually. But as Antti said, since the fans are stand by him, then he shouldn't worry at all. Actually, I think that you can draw many parallels between Klopp's start at Liverpool and Amorim start at Manchester United. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, again, like both Liverpool and Manchester United reached the Europa League finals in the first season. They didn't qualify for Europe. Now Manchester United's main advantage, I think, is that they're not playing in Europe next season. And if you trust in the project, you can build on that. And I think that Amorim has proved that he's a great coach and that he can lead Manchester United back to Europe at least.
Thanks, Panos. Tim, to you, there's a lot of pressure on managers, short-termism, isn't there?
Yes.
That they have to get things right very quickly. Fans lose patience and owners and chairmen decide enough is enough and they change.
Yes, but what's striking for me with Manchester United, and Andy will know much more about this than I do, it's almost as if there's a ceiling. You can reach such a size when there's a ceiling against your own incompetence. Because the club has been a shambles for years now. It's almost a lesson in how not to do things. And look at the caliber of players that they are still able to attract. Meanwhile, the clubs emerging into the Premier League, they have no protection against their own incompetence. But they have to do things right. They have to get everything right, or if not, they're going to go straight back down. But United, it's almost like a lesson in how not to run a club, the way that things have happened over the last few years. But because they're United, they are still able to attract some of the best players in the Premier League. And I think this, for me, is really, really striking.
Tell me, Tim, the clubs who come up, the newcomers this season, who've all got Premier League pedigrees of the past. So you've got Burnley, Leeds United and Sunderland. Yeah. They really need to just stay up, don't they?
They do. And they need to stay up, not just this year, but the next year, because that can be difficult. Sometimes your original momentum can carry you through the first season and then the season afterwards. It is a very, very difficult act to perform. Of the three who have come up, I would probably have more faith in Leeds because I think it's a big city. There's an infrastructure there capable of sustaining a Premier League club. But often I do have mixed feelings when I see the club and the fans celebrate promotion at the end of one season, because I think, yeah, what you're celebrating is the right to have a year of misery ahead of you.
Andy, on that point, how much of a problem is it for the Premier League when the same three who come up generally are the same three who go back down 9 or 10 months later?
It's becoming a problem. It doesn't look good at all. And if Leeds are a huge club, as Tim said, it's a huge city and can't stay up, then that's a real worry. Leeds and Sunderland will be averaging 40,000 this season. That's 4 times as much as Bournemouth. But the old measurements are going now. It's not just about how big your average home crowds are, television, commercial revenues, and the way that you run a club. So Bournemouth, by far the smallest, and yet they've been completely comfortable. They've been really successful within their limits, which they're proving people wrong every season. But it wasn't a good look last year. No matter how bad Manchester United were, and they're absolutely terrible, they still were quite comfortable avoiding relegation. And it's not a good look for the league. If you look at the viewing figures last year, the fact that Liverpool streamed ahead, the relegation battle was already decided. It's fewer plot lines. And I respect the German league, but it's not good when Bayern Munich win it every season. I respect the French league, and I love watching football in places like Lyon or Marseille or even Paris. But it simply is not good when the same team wins the league every year. And it's one of the reasons the Premier League is so attractive. But if the same teams go down who come up, that is not a good one for me.
Panos, let's talk about Manchester City, Pep Guardiola. They will surely come again and come very strong this season.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that the team are in a transition period, and if you want to ask me who I would bet on to take my team into a transition period, that would definitely be Pep Guardiola. I think that Manchester City, they have won 6 of the last 8 Premier League titles. They can come back. They will come back for sure. It's just a matter of time.
Tim, to you, Guardiola has been an extraordinary manager. He has won everything worth winning at club level. Manchester City, for him, he can't walk away leaving this as it is. You get the impression that he has to win a title this season.
I was a little bit surprised that he didn't walk away a year ago, because you were thinking maybe this team is aging and will go into a decline. He's elected to stay, and I agree with you 100%. Let's make a comparison with the glory years of Manchester United, because on the one hand, there was all of the stability of Alex Ferguson, but behind the scenes, Ferguson was repeatedly swapping his backup staff. Who is the coach who's out there working with the players? That position was continually changing. And Guardiola has now made a series of changes with his backup staff. So I think Panos is correct. I think this is going to be a new, reinvigorated Manchester City. On the evidence, admittedly brief, of the Club World Cup, it's going to be a Manchester City that put more emphasis on dribbling, a little bit more direct, perhaps. Maybe more of a team which is providing a spectacle, which is good for all of us.
Andy, give us your impression of City, your friendly neighbours, your noisy neighbours, I think was the phrase that Alex Ferguson used about them famously. Where do you think they will go this season?
I think they'll be much better. I was surprised how bad City were last season. Guardiola has shown how good he is. I think in Spanish you say the fin de ciclo, the end of the cycle, and you saw that very clearly with Manchester City, and players were moved on. City have spent a lot. I like some of the players who've been brought in. I watched them a couple of times, don't tell anybody, at the Etihad towards the end of the season. Marmoush was making a good impression. And I know I'd been in Egypt on a job and saw what a big name he could be as well. Ryan Cherki was outstanding for Lyon against Manchester United, and I was baffled at how cheap he was. And then Ryan Aït-Nouri, I went to see him in January in Wolverhampton. Really pleasant young man, and I think he could be a good signing for Manchester City as well. Again, surprisingly cheap. So I would expect them to improve considerably. It's just the finer details of knitting together to see if they can compete, not just for the Premier League, but for the Champions League as well, because their squad is structured to be fighting on 3 or 4 fronts.
Panos, talk to me about the threat posed by Saudi Arabia. We know the Saudi Premier League, the quality the standard of the football is nowhere near what it is in the Premier League, let's be frank. But the wages, the money, the kind of agents that are involved, how much of a threat do you think that poses long-term to the Premier League with the money they can offer?
To be honest, at the beginning, I thought that it would be a big threat for the Premier League, losing players like Neves, like young players, to the Saudi league or even Spanish football. They had the same problem. But now I think that maybe they are using it to their benefit. Like you can see teams offloading players in order to balance their financial fair play accounts. They offload players and they gain money that they can spend and invest into youngsters. So for the time being, I don't think it's gonna be a big threat.
Tim, you will head back to South America soon, but you will be watching the Premier League every weekend, every midweek game. What kind of a following does it have in South America?
Huge, very, very big. And with the exception of Real Madrid and Barcelona, it is the league that people follow. It is the league of global stars and domestic stars as well. Why has it worked? And I think Panos there talking about Saudi Arabia, I think there's a point to be made. I think all of the new, with the excesses that the new has brought, but with its successes and with its failures, the marketing, the razzmatazz and so on, but it's all built on the roots of the old, on the way that the game is absolutely locked in to the culture of cities all around this country. And that's something that you can't duplicate. That's something that a Saudi Arabia, you can't have that from nothing. So I think it's this fusion between the new and the old, which has helped make the Premier League such a successful product. And I see in the streets of Rio in Brazil, I see shirts of so many Premier League teams. When I first moved there over 30 years ago, that was unthinkable. They used to have on local TV occasionally the Monday night game. It was usually Wimbledon. It was invariably terrible. And it was seen as something for lunatics only.
Yeah.
Now it's the league that all of the broadcasters want because it delivers attractive product.
Can safely say the standard of play has improved. We're going to finish with some predictions. As a Liverpool fan, that's where my heart is in 2026. I really hope Arne Slot can deliver and perhaps even a Champions League title as well. Who do you think will win this new season?
Always make your predictions after the events. There's one team that we haven't mentioned so far, and I'm sure Paris Saint-Germain are quaking in their boots at the thought of meeting the mighty Tottenham Hotspur in the curtain raiser to the season. Now, who am I backing? I think probably Manchester City. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. No, so you think Guardiola will bounce back?
I think he might, yes.
Andy, to you, don't say Manchester United, please.
No, I think United would be happy to get a European place in a top 7. Can't even believe I'm saying that, but that's the reality of it. Yeah, I'm with Tim. I think Guardiola will bounce back. I think it'll be City and Liverpool. I'm not convinced that Arsenal and will push, even though they've been finishing second and are much improved. So they will be the two.
And Andy, if you had to pick one surprise package this new season, who to look out for?
That's a good one. I mean, what is a surprise? One of the teams at the bottom staying up. It's quite sad to say it, but that would surprise me. I think your Brentfords and your Bournemouths. I'm going to say the teams with the Bs, but Burnley are slightly different from them. Just the fact that they've been able to establish themselves still surprises me. They've been really well run. For a team to break it, I was going to say, well, Tottenham Hotspur never win anything, but I'm on very shaky ground there because they won the Europa League beating Manchester United. But I couldn't see Tottenham pushing forward. Perhaps Newcastle United, but I know there's a lot of frustration there with their inability to spend their absolute vast riches.
Thank you, Andy. Panos, final question to you. Who do you think will be the Premier League winners in 2026?
I think that Liverpool are the favorites, but I think that, yes, Pep Guardiola is going to bounce back. Pep Guardiola is going to transform Manchester City and he will deliver again. That's what I can see.
Right, I'm outnumbered 3-1 here. I hate you all. Thank you so much, Tim, Andy and Panos. Great discussion. Enjoy the new season. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.